We have Frank McCourt. Everybody here knows Frank McCourt, runs McCourt Global, Project Liberty. Zoe Kalar runs We Are 8, social media site. All right, Frank, everybody's talking about your TikTok deal. Talking about the game theory of whether you're going to buy TikTok. I'm excited for you to own TikTok, but this is what I don't understand. Day one, you've got TikTok. You got it. Elon doesn't own it with you. It's just you, right? You own TikTok, right? I log into TikTok, and I want to post a little video, right? What happens? Because suddenly now I'm on the blockchain. I own my data. There are no ads. It's a totally different thing. How does it actually work?
Yeah. So, first of all, I don't want to disappoint you because it won't be like that on day one. These things take a little bit of time, so there'll be a transition.
You're a pretty efficient guy.
Yeah, pretty efficient.
The TikTok people are not going to wait. If you're like, 3 months, you'll have your TikTok back, that's not going to work very well.
So think of it like this.
Okay.
You're on a big, huge cruise ship called TikTok. And now there's another bigger ship coming by called the TikTok 2. You need to get off the first TikTok by lifeboats onto TikTok 2, right? So it happens in batches, and then the batches get bigger and bigger and bigger. It takes a few months to do it. But I think your question is like, in a few months, then what would happen? And what will happen is you'll be on a TikTok with a very similar user experience, but the reality will be fundamentally different because you won't really be a user anymore. You'll be a person, a human being that owns and controls your identity, your data, and your relationships. And you'll be on an internet where you won't be in a walled garden called TikTok 2. You'll be on an app called TikTok 2 that actually can communicate with other apps like We Are 8 and so on and so forth. So your data will be yours, permissioned by you, shared on your terms. So now we're not clicking on TikTok 1's terms and condition of use, giving up everything to use an app. The TikTok 2 will ask you your terms and conditions of use, and we'll click on yours. So it shifts the power from the platform to people. That's the fundamental shift.
Great shift, idealistic shift. I think everybody in this room would love this shift. But
it's
can you please go back to the lifeboat? Sorry. So I'm leaving the TikTok 1 ship. I'm on the lifeboat. What's happening while I'm on the lifeboat? I'm logging into a new account. I'm setting up an account. Do I set up a wallet? What's happening?
Yeah. Okay. Again, you got to get out of your head how the internet works today. Okay.
I'm already on a lifeboat, Frank. I'm out of my head, right?
Okay.
Just.
So you're not logging in to an app. You're not logging into TikTok 2. You're logging on to the internet. Okay. So log in with Liberty is an open source portal to the internet. The apps built in this new internet are all sharing a core layer protocol. You don't have 50 passwords. You're not logging into TikTok 2, giving up all your data in exchange for using the app. You are logging into the internet. You own you. The IP address is yours. And one of the choices that you can use in this new internet is TikTok 2. And We Are 8 would be another choice. There are 9 million apps on the current internet. 7 million of them on either Apple or Google's app stores, and a handful that really control our experience on the internet.
But so I will go through an app, right? I will be able to do this on my phone. I'll pull out my iPhone and I will click on a thing that says TikTok, or I will click on a thing that says Project Liberty entry point.
You'll have a TikTok 2.
TikTok 2.
Okay, but you won't be logging onto TikTok 2 and giving up all your data for the use of that app. You, Nick, will have an IP address, not your phone. Right now, we're not on the internet. Right? We're not on the internet. Our device is on the internet, right? Our device has the IP address. That's how we are tracked on the internet. Imagine you are on the internet. You have the IP address. You control you. You own you again, right? Your data is your personhood in the digital age. So now you're logging onto the internet, and the first big app you see once we buy TikTok is TikTok 2, because it has 170 million users. It's in it, but everybody on TikTok 2 can talk to everybody on We Are 8, and everybody on We Are 8 can talk to people on TikTok 2. So you have access. We Are 8 has access to those 170 million people, but with permission. With permission. You know when you make a phone call, right? Somebody else has to show up on the other end of the call and receive your call and say hello. And then we're really annoyed by all these robocalls and ones that we block. That's not giving permission. So imagine the internet works in a similar way, where you can permission the use of your data across apps, right? And so the ability of removing the privilege of one or two apps having all of our data and all of the control, to decentralizing and democratizing how the internet works, so we have control. We're not stuck in a walled garden, and our relationships and our audience and our friends are all owned not by us, but by the platform. Forget about that internet. It's not what TikTok 2 is about, right? So TikTok 2 is a really, what it is a speedboat to the future.
Okay. One more question about the speedboat and my data. So I've taken my life raft and I've gotten on the big ship in the speedboat. I've gone in. It's kind of like WeChat. It's like an everything app except the opposite of WeChat. And you go in.
How could it be like it but the opposite?
It's like it in that it's an app that's like a meta app, but it's the opposite in that your data is not being sold to the Chinese government.
Well, it's the opposite, because your data isn't being sold to anyone.
Right. It's
your data, and you're in charge of it. Again, get out of the existing internet. You're now off the boat. You're off the boat.
I thought it was on a boat.
You're on the new
All
boat.
Right. So I would bring you in here. So let's talk about We Are 8. So explain your journey to create it. Explain how it works. And you made the transition. You took your boat and you put it on the other boat? You took your boat to the boat. Explain why you made that decision.
This is going to be a year of radical change, right? And despite all the social entertainment and all the good bits of social, all the real connections, because when you're on this speedboat, the TikTok 2 speedboat, you're still going to have all your connections. You're still going to have all your followers. You're still going to have all your people. You're still going to have that entertainment experience. But at We Are 8, we saw three really critical things that needed to be fixed. The economic models. You know, we the people had become the largest unpaid workforce in human history. For particularly Zuckerberg, this year it'll be $200 billion at the People's Time's worth. So we reimagined... He bought a
great watch with that money.
Although he looked very happy about it at the inauguration, didn't he? So for us, it's about shifting the economics back to the people. So we've built like a TikTok, Instagram had a love baby experience, vertical video, social experience. But when you choose to watch ads, the money goes into your central wallet. We share 50% of the money, all advertising money, with the people, and 5% to a creator fund. So the first bit was reimagining the economic models and taking the ads out of the social experience. Because when you do that, and people watch an ad when they want, and it's in their control, their choice, it means that you can unlock the algorithms and enable people to go, you know, those social superhighways of TikTok and Instagram reels, you can't get off from a post, which means artists, musicians, no one can link back to a healthy web. On We Are 8, you can link back from every post. So we've unlocked the algorithms and enabled access, speedboat access, back to a healthy web. So the first thing was economics, the second thing was unlocked algorithms, and the third thing was protections. I mean, the reason it's taken us so long to build this, we've invested the last 4 years building AI models to protect people from toxic abuse, bullying, hate. It runs over all videos, images, comments, profiles. I was on stage on a panel at the Project Liberty event with one of the former TikTok CEOs that Frank kindly facilitated. And it was interesting because they said it can't be done. You can't have moderation at scale when you have 28 million videos uploaded globally a day. But you can, because we've built it and our engine can moderate and protect from harm 250 million videos a day.
Well, and the good thing about right now is you can hire content moderators and fact checkers for a much lower price.
The thing is, all of those moderators are really traumatized. I mean, it is a massive problem right across India, and this is the best, most fundamental application of AI. It's where we've taught AI and built AI models to protect humanity. The previous models were just a reflection of humanity, and it had learnt that people just want power, control, money, greed. We've had to reteach AI engines what humanity really wants. So it's really about protection from toxic content, protection as a person, protection of our families, societies, kids, economic models and resharing, and true freedom in your social experience.
So, can I add one thing? So let's say Zoe does a phenomenal job with We Are 8 on DSNP and in this new world. And we buy TikTok and do a lousy job. All those people can migrate to We Are 8. No,
I
I'm
don't
just
want
saying.
you to do a lousy job, by the way,
but the
Frank.
point is, it's not about a killer app. It's about a killer
freedom.
ecosystem. It's about a new way of thinking about it. Look, when we built the telecom company back in the 90s, we were the first to take on the baby bells. In the US, there were 7 baby bells. They said they owned your phone number. And you couldn't talk to someone on a different phone carrier. The country was divided into 7 geographic areas. Now, for anyone young here, younger than 30, you're saying, this is like the stupidest idea. It couldn't have possibly been that your phone number didn't work throughout the whole country. It couldn't have possibly been that you didn't own your own number and you could take it when you moved from one carrier to the other. Well, that's the way it was until 1996. And then people owned their phone number, demanded ownership of it. They could take it anywhere. And the carriers all became interoperable. It didn't matter. If you're on AT&T and you're on T-Mobile and I'm on Verizon, our phone number works, right? It now works globally, anywhere you go, because technology advances. Think of the internet, your personal data, as your modern-day phone number, but 1,000,000 times more valuable. But think of it as what phone number portability was. Think of data portability as being the norm. And think of the current big apps as being those baby bells that say you can't take your relationship, so you can't talk to anybody on any other app. And imagine them, they're all interoperable. 5 years from now, people are going to look back and a young person is going to say, what do you mean there was an internet where you didn't own yourself and own your data? What do you mean there was an internet where you had to be on Instagram to talk to somebody on the internet? It's going to change. TikTok can help it change faster.
Frank, can you explain what my data is, right? Because like you get my height, my weight, my name, all that. That's pretty easy. That's data. I enter it. I grew up in Brookline, Massachusetts. All cool. But the actual valuable data about me that exists on the internet is that, it's like the web of connections on LinkedIn, right? That's super valuable because you can map my graph. Like there's the stuff that Facebook knows from all the things I've clicked on and all the stuff that, like basically the value of my data is directly related to the amount of surveillance on the system I've been using. And so you're trying to make data valuable while ending surveillance. Like, so what does my data look like in your new world?
Okay, so earlier today, Tim Berners-Lee was sitting right here. He created the World Wide Web, and that was a huge innovation because data went from being device-to-device exchange to being freed up so we all all could exchange it, and that was the launch of the so-called World Wide Web. What he imagined was an internet where our data would be used in these. Hey, Jimmy.
So sorry.
No worries.
Hi, Jimmy. What an entrance.
All that stuff I said about Jimmy, forget about it. He's a great guy.
Latency is a problem on the internet. And
So the point is that he thought that the people would use the data responsibly, right, in a way, in a trusted way. Well, it didn't work out that way. What happened was, just in terms of a chronology, is that when the data was freed up, a few companies won the battle to grab everybody's data. So there was one dominant player in social, one in shopping, one in search. They understood that if they could grab our data, they would figure out how to make money. And the figure out how to make money was ads. So if I know what you like to wear, or what you like to eat, or where you like to go, I'll sell those things to you. But then they realized something else. The longer you were online, the more they understood not just about what you like, but how you think, how you emote, and they actually assess your personality. So they can easily, if you can feed ads to people, you can feed news to people, and news that they're going to believe, because that's what they've already profiled you, so they know what your tendency is. So you get people to reinforce viewpoints in more and more extreme ways. And they also know how to provoke you. So why is TikTok banned? Not because the U.S. is surveilling, TikTok is surveilling 170 million Americans. It's because China can influence 170 million Americans. That's what's going on, and that's the danger. So our social graph information, which is technically what it's called, is so rich on each one of us that we're all micro profiles. If I said I'm the Postmaster General and I'm going to give you free stamps, but in exchange I'm going to put a camera and a listening device in every room of your home, in your car, and in your workplace, you'd say creepy. Oh, one other thing. I'm going to open your mail and read it, and everything I learn about you is now mine, including your most intimate thoughts. And what you'd say unfair. Oh, one other thing. Oh, but it's free. One other thing. I'm going to read your 14-year-old daughter's diary, and when I see that she's concerned about something like her weight, I'm going to go feed her stuff to make her feel worse, feed her stuff to actually profit after I've made her feel worse, and then feed her stuff to harm herself, cut herself, hurt herself. So creepy, and unfair, and downright harmful. That's what we have. And we need to fix it by putting people in charge of their data.
But I'm sorry to keep asking all these technical questions, because I have vision, philosophy. I just want to understand a little bit more about how this works. So I go into TikTok 2, and I import, and I follow Zoe on TikTok 1. And I go into TikTok 2, and part of the data that is with Nick is that Nick follows Zoe. And I go on to TikTok 2, and I'm like, you know what? My social graph, do I want to import that? Do I not want to import that? I want to import that. But does Zoe then get to veto it if she goes on to TikTok 2, but she doesn't want to be connected to Nick?
It's all permission-based. You get to pick up the phone and answer it when somebody calls or not. It's a permission-based thing. And your social graph is not one thing that you share. Your social graph is abundant. You might just need to share your age or your location. You don't need to share everything about you just to get a free app.
All right. Jimmy, welcome.
Thank you.
Here, I'm going to give you sort of a broad philosophical question so that you don't actually have to know what we were talking about before. Oh,
Yeah.
do you actually need to introduce this guy? Jimmy Wales. He founded Wikipedia.
Legend.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So Zoe and Frank are on this radical mission to remake all of social media, and probably the biggest thing that would ever happen to social media would be TikTok being bought by Frank, moved into this new ecosystem, into TikTok 2. You built a platform, and you miraculously built it without it ever getting corrupted by Mammon, right? And I'm curious, was there ever a moment where you almost got knocked off track, right? Where you were trying to build this beautiful thing, and you almost lost it, where you almost made the sacrifice, where you almost made the deal with the devil. And I'm curious if there's a story like that that would provide wisdom as they go on this journey.
No, not really. We're very simple. Going back to the very beginning, I mean, the only real example is I was raising money for another project, which is now Fandom, and a venture capitalist wasn't that interested in that, but said, why don't I just give you $30 million and we'll figure out how to get Wikipedia out of the nonprofit structure. And I just didn't go back. I was just like, well, that's just bad. And but that was just one offhand remark by a VC who had a stupid idea. In general, for Wikipedia, we've just always been very, very rigorous on these kinds of things. So I would say the one thing we didn't know in the early days, we didn't know how we would get the money to survive. And so until we really did our first fundraiser, which was a big success, where I wanted to raise $20,000 within a month. That was the goal I set for myself. And we raised about $30,000 within about 2 weeks. And I was like, okay, this could work, right? We could get money this way. Before that point, I thought, well, if people won't donate, we will have to run ads. And then as soon as you have to run ads, then you go down a certain path of data and da-da-da-da. And we didn't have to do that. And so we were, just to tell you some of the more amusing things, talking about hoovering up people's data, for a long period of time, I redirected the access logs on the servers to dev null, i.e., they were just instantly deleted. We didn't keep any access logs at all for years. And that, I'll tell you one of the reasons. It was partly about a privacy issue, because you can't be subpoenaed for someone's reading history if you don't have it. But it's just as much because I couldn't afford the disk space to store all that data. So it was like, I'm going to have to buy a huge disk to store data, which we're not even using or looking at anyway. So we just deleted it. Later on, now we do have, I don't know exactly what the current internal policy is, but for a while we were storing 1 out of every 1,000 hits for a short period of time, just to do some analytics. So what the hell's going on the site. And now there's a whole policy and so on. But we basically burn the data as fast as we can. And so we don't know, we don't have features of Wikipedia that are like tracking the things you're interested in, and then offering you other articles that we think other people like you would be interested in. Would be a useful feature, but we just don't have that. We don't have it because we don't have the data. But therefore we also don't have the ability, and not the desire, like to, if any of the major data players came to us and said, we would really love to map the data of what people are reading to Wikipedia and their shopping habits, and we can sell them more. Well, we won't do that. We won't do it out of principle. We also won't do it because we just don't have that data and don't keep it.
What's interesting is you have these islands of integrity, like what Jimmy has, and not-for-profit, Signal, not-for-profit, so forth, and the whole internet should work that way. There shouldn't be little pockets of that you need to be a not-for-profit, and you need to keep the values. Those values should be embedded in the entirety of it, and there should be financial models that can sustain that. But you buy into the values.
What is the financial model for TikTok 2?
Initially, there will be advertising, but it will be totally intention-based. So instead of an attention economy, which optimizes for time online and scraping information and micro-profiling you to sell things to you, it will be Nick going online, verifying you're a human being. That would be a nice thing on the internet.
That'd be great.
Right? You have to be a person, and you can only be one. You don't have to share who you are, but you have to verify you're a human, and or a business, obviously. But so you go on and say, I'm a person, and I'm interested in. What are you interested in? You like running, right? So I'm interested in running shoes. You get and you set your parameters, and you get all the options you get on the internet today, and you have the privilege of buying it, and you have it gets delivered the next day. However, you haven't shared all of your data for the privilege of buying a pair of running shoes. If you do share your data, you then would get value for that.
But you have a disadvantage that Jimmy didn't have, in that if you buy this for $20 billion in a collection of people, you're going to have a lot of people who need a return, right? So you're going to have to be pretty aggressive. Are you going to be able to earn this back?
The investors we've talked to think it could be massively profitable, which is actually, I'm interested in changing how the internet works much more than I am interested in TikTok, if you know what I mean. This is an opportunity. Project Liberty was not created to buy TikTok. I just hope everybody understands that. And if TikTok is shut down, Project Liberty is barreling ahead. Okay, it's bigger than TikTok. TikTok is an opportunity to compress time and move more people to this upgraded version of the internet where you own you. And we have 2 million now. That's great. It works. We'll have 30 million by the end of the year. That's great. That will be bigger. But I'd rather have 200 million by the end of the year, because the faster we fix it, the less harm is being done by the existing internet.
So, Zoe, you have a very innovative business model, which you just explained. You also have a very innovative way you deal with algorithms. Explain that.
Fixing the economic models actually enables us to unlock all of the algorithms so people can control what they see and who sees them. Because the economic models of the current social world depend on us being unconscious as possible, and scrolling for 4 hours a day. When we scroll, they make more money. It is as simple as that. And so the algorithms become more abusive, more controlling. They keep us on edge as human beings, and that is purely so they can make more money. So we unlock that and unlock those by pulling the ad experience so people can tap on the golden button, they can watch some ads, money drops into their wallet, 50% of the money is shared with them. They can use it to pay their mobile bill, Spotify, Netflix, etc. Our whole mission, there was a moment I was in the US and I realised that 40% of all Americans cannot find $400 in an emergency. And then I realised that each of us is worth that alone to Zuckerberg. What if we could bring people and brands closer, give more attention, give people full choice over the ads they watch and when they watch them, and share the economics? And that's now what we've built. And the beautiful thing about that, when you separate it, the biggest complaint that we have is we want to watch more ads. By the way, we cap it at 8 minutes a day. At the moment, we've got up to 2 minutes a day, but we've got 250 of the biggest brands in the world. The ads work 54 times better. But the beautiful thing is this is full control for the people. And then the feeds are unlocked. We don't care. And the whole thing is, we really don't want you for 4 hours a day. We want you on for 10 minutes a day. Get inspired by the best social content. Reconnect with people. Really reconnect with your friends. And tap off and go and discover things on the web again. It's this, because the web is dying, actually, because people are spending the majority of their time on the social media highways of death, and they're not able to get off to the web unless there's intentional searching. So we unlock that, unlock the algorithms, and it's huge for musicians, artists, actors. They want to drive people to their websites, their galleries, their Spotify links. I mean, for someone like Selena Gomez, she's got 420 million followers, but on an Instagram reel, she only gets 0.1% engagement, 500,000 likes, and she has to block comments because of hate. When she has 400 million people on 8 following her, they will see her, they'll be able to comment because we've eradicated the toxicity, and she'll be able to link people back to her website, all the stuff on mental health. I think Taylor Swift won't be singing at halftime on the Super Bowl. She will be so powerful, she'll be bidding for the Super Bowl rights. And I was sort of looking at, with interest, at the inauguration. It was the first time we'd seen so publicly the tech bros all together. And it wasn't the bros part that I really minded, although I think there needs to be some female balance in that. It was really that all of those people have a vested interest in themselves, and collectively they're worth $900 billion. And we saw that power, and my belief is that President Trump is going to need to hold them accountable. And the best way I think he's going to do that is not just take Frank's DSMP protocol enable Frank to buy and transform 50% of TikTok, but it's also to mandate to all of those tech companies that they have to integrate We Are Eight's protection protocol, so there's no hate, We Are Eight's economic protocol, and We Are Eight's unlocked algorithms so that people are free again. And I think that gets really exciting because that is entirely possible and entirely scalable now.
You want the Trump administration to do that?
Well, I think firstly, he needs to keep them in check. Right, we see the power brokers, and I think not only I want him to, I actually think it's in his best interest to make America safe again and to get $1 a day into the pockets of 800 million people.
I mean, as they say about Trump, you never know, right? Who knows? Maybe that will happen. Jimmy, can I ask you a big question about the internet, and then we'll go to audience Q&A? So, as someone who runs a media company, I am worried about the future of web, and I'm worried about this concept called enshittification, right? And the idea is that it will be so easy to create garbage content on the web that there will be an infinite amount of garbage content. Not only that, the search engines that allow you to navigate and provide, even though they're centralized companies, do allow for decentralization. Those companies are moving to answer engines, meaning they will just answer your questions and they won't send you out anymore. So you'll have a web that has all this garbage and you won't be able to navigate it. And I'm worried the web is going to break. And I worry, and if that happens, it'll be interesting. Like in some ways, fine, we'll go off into walled gardens and maybe you'll read your news stories in Apple News and maybe you'll spend your social time on Project Liberty. Are you worried about that future web? Do you worry about that?
I mean, the problem is I'm a pathological optimist, so I don't really worry about anything ever, but I probably should. Yeah, so obviously we keep a very close eye on, and we have even before the emergence of the large language models, when Google started to put on the knowledge graph. So if you type, I don't know, Tom Cruise is always my example. Mm-hmm. Then over on the right, there's the knowledge graph.
That's interesting.
And yeah, well, if 15 years ago, if you typed "How old is Tom Cruise?" Google had no idea. But the first link was Wikipedia, and you would go there and find out. Now, of course, Google knows how old Tom Cruise is, so it just tells you down to the day. And then it's got the links on the side. And so we worried that a lot of the traffic that we would get, Google would begin to answer that. And now with the AI part at the top, that's increased. We have seen zero impact on traffic so far. Part of that is because Google is pretty good about citing their sources in that stuff, and over on the right, those are all links to Wikipedia, and Wikipedia is still the first thing, and so on. But you know, you do have to worry about that. Like, will the sort of large language models get good enough, or apparently good enough to most people, that people just start using that for the kind of thing they used to do and research on the web, and not come out to sort of general sources. And then the other problem, which is something that I think the search engines really do have to take very, very seriously, and I think they are, and grapple with, is precisely the ability now to generate huge websites for a very, very cheap amount that are full of low-quality, plausible text. And that might be, you know, how hard would it be to set up, well, if you try to do this today, I'm gonna make a competitor to Wikipedia, and it's gonna look a lot like Wikipedia, but we're gonna write all the content with AI. Well, it would be shit, because the AIs make stuff up all the time, and you know, particularly the more obscure you get, the worse it is. But there's loads and loads of stuff like cooking blogs, which are already terrible. I love to cook, and there's a lot of terrible cooking blogs that tell you sort of a big story about their family for, like, you know, a half hour's reading, and then the recipe at the bottom. But to generate content like that, massive amounts of it, is just really easy, and it's low quality. And how then can a search engine begin to keep that stuff out and filter that out and get to the quality stuff? So I think a piece of it may well be, in consumers' mind, a strengthening, and this is really counter to trends we've seen, a strengthening of traditional news brands and the perceived quality of that. If everywhere I go on the internet I see just random BS, then maybe I start to think, oh, like, actually, you know, I'm going to go to a known newspaper brand that I've heard of for years and years, because at least I know they've got editors and reporters, and it's not written by AI, which is why I think all the big news companies better be very, very careful if they start using AI, because then you're just like all the, you're cutting costs and so on. I mean, that doesn't mean you shouldn't use the technology, but carefully. So yeah, I mean, and I think the combination of those things does make it, interesting. So the kind of things.
No, he's turning me into an optimist. He's the first person I've ever heard make the case that AI is good for my business. I love this man.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing is if you, but what I think a lot about is, with various regulation things. So just the example, in the UK, there is a UK cycling forum. So it's a website, and people who are into you're into cycling, no, running. I'm sure
Cycling
there's a running forum.
When I'm injured, I cycle.
The cycling forum, and they've decided to shut down because of the new UK Online Safety Act, which they're subject to, which imposes too heavy of a legal risk and a burden on them. Probably all their users are going to go then to a big platform. That's not healthy. So I worry about that type of thing.
Apart from aid.
Pardon?
Aid is healthy.
Oh, okay, I'll tell them that. I'll email them. But the other thing is if you think about, suppose you wanted to start a new community like that. Never mind about the regulations. Suppose you want to start a cooking blog because you love cooking and you want to write about how your kids don't like to eat their peas and so on. But I don't like that type of blog. But well, how are you? That whole creativity will be gone because AI just there's 100 AI sites out there that look the same. How do you compete with that if you're a blogger, for example?
And community has nowhere to go, right? It's
Right.
really interesting because we're picking up lots of scientific communities and others because they want the conversation flow, but they want links back to the website. And that is so important because if you've got I'm into food too, Jimmy, and if you've got a cooking blog, that could be a small business with 10,000 followers and 10,000 people. If those 10,000 people can't see you and you can't link back to your blog, you can't turn it into a business.
That's right.
When you can, that's
All right. Well, speaking of
transformative.
community and link backs, questions from the audience.
Because we're running out of time, so please keep your questions brief. First.
So I'm Alex, founder of IGEA, an infrastructure empowering individuals like yours to take back control of our data and extract the value. Only here in Davos, probably there are a dozen of companies like yours, like mine, sharing the same vision. The problem is that we are not collaborating. We are, each of us, building our own stuff. How do you see we can come up together?
Yeah, I said that to Micah earlier today that we need a tagline under Project Liberty that says, a collaborative.
Yeah.
This is not our thing. We have 140 organizations now, and this has got to be, Project Liberty will fail if it's not a broad collaboration. So please connect with Lara and be involved. Perfect.
Look at that. Great things
Look at
happening here in
that.
Davos. Right here.
I'm more or less like Nick. I feel kind of skeptical of everything that you're aiming at, but I'm also like a little bit like Jimmy. Like I want to believe that this is gonna happen, and I was wondering if you think that there is kind of a momentum building, because if you look at X, for example, there's a huge backlash to X right now because of everything that Elon did. I'm from Brazil. X was banned for over 40 days in Brazil 3 months ago. Everybody's talking about Blue Sky and the free our feed thing. Do you think this is something that could really create this perfect storm to make these things happen?
No, I think that things are definitely changing, and when we started this project 5 years ago, there was more skepticism, let's say, than there is now. There's more belief and optimism because it's actually happening, right? This alternative web that we're talking about has been built. There are people building on it. It's all happening. And at the same time, all of the horror stories are happening about the harms, right? And so the election in Romania, disinformation in Ukraine, the harms to children, which our partners here at Human Change focus on. So the water is, we're like a frog that boils, and the water's getting hotter and hotter and hotter. And I think people are now realizing that the current design of extracting our data, removing our digital DNA from us, which is part of who we are, it's our digital self, and thinking that it's different than our biological self is flawed. You should own you, your virtual you as well, and decide how you share information. That's fundamentally the issue. Who should own each of our, and when I say over and over again, don't think data, think personhood. Every time you hear the word personhood, it's you. And so I think it's definitely changing. The outcome is far from clear, because it's not just natural skepticism. There's massive companies built on the model that we're saying is breaking us. So at least now the question has been called. What I believe that where we are in the trajectory is that the question is risen to the point where it's not a given that we're just going to race into the future with this broken internet and make it more powerful. I mean, like, what logic is that? Something's broken, let's make it more powerful and hope for the best. You fix what's broken, then make it more powerful. I think that there's a conversation of, okay, maybe we go the direction we're going, maybe not. Maybe there's a better direction where human beings can be at the center of the internet. And I'm very hopeful about that, but a realist at the same time. This cannot be done by a few, it's not done by a few people. This is done by a massive coalition of people demanding a better internet.
Right here.
Hi. I'm Nianta Spellman, Rainforest Partnership. Thank you all, each of you. So we're at a crossroads, right, for the fate of humanity's, the trajectory for humanity's path. Each of you have chosen not to sit on the sidelines, not to accept the status quo. It's taken courage, it's taken money, there's personal costs, but there's vast benefit potential to humanity and changing the destiny. What drives each of you three to be on this path?
What drives each of us? I'm a father of 8.
Wow.
I have 8 children.
Is 8 enough?
Can you imagine how shitty dinner would be at Frank's house if, they were all on TikTok? It'd be a disaster.
Well, it is the perfect number.
I'll tell you, I have 4 older children and 4 younger ones, and my 9-year-old came home from school in tears because 2 of her friends didn't want to be her friends anymore because they're on TikTok and she's not. It's seeped all the way into 2nd, 3rd grade level with this and there's massive peer pressure.
And are they going to be her friend when she owns TikTok?
Yeah.
Oh, beautiful question.
And
And that-
Jimmy or
Well,
Zoe?
I mean, for me, it's Wikipedia has now been around for 24 years, so 25th anniversary, and a year from now, and so we've had time. Like, everybody knows Wikipedia. I meet young people. I met some young people here in Davos who were just out of their minds. They were excited to meet me. They were all gushing about how Wikipedia changed their life. They wouldn't be here in Davos had it not been for Wikipedia. Getting them through school, which I think is a little exaggeration, but you see that kind of impact. Or I travel all over the world, a little less since the pandemic, and I meet people in difficult places where access to information is quite thin, and Wikipedia is having an impact there. It's like I see the work that we're doing as having the kind of impact that I had hoped it would have, and so that just gives me the energy to keep going. So the vision for Wikipedia is a free encyclopedia for every single person on the planet in their own language, and that work is far from done. We're in about 300-ish languages, but some of those are still very, very small. So there's a lot of exciting stuff going on with how do we help those communities grow and get bigger and stronger. And then it's also, it's just like a weird, funny thing is like Elon Musk snapping at me on Twitter, I think is very fucking funny. So,
I love that, Jimmy. I'm a mum of 3 boys.
I have kids too. Okay. I like them. Yeah.
It's a big driver, but I think the biggest thing for me is, firstly, I don't think you choose it. It chooses you. And we're here on this planet to do a job, because you have to have a level of insanity to do these things. But it's a belief that things are so broken, when you can see a path to fixing it, that can really help a lot of people. When you have generations of young people that are literally self-harming, getting hurt and unconscious, and spending 4 to 5 hours a day, that's 3 to 4 months of their lives every year, unconscious and scrolling. And you see a better way, because out the other side of this, that I think is going to be really quick, when you take all the good things of social and eliminate the toxic things, unlock the economics and bring people together and mobilize the unity, it is insane. We talk about power of 5G is nothing compared to the collective power of human energy and people working together. So I think it picks us. That was a very beautiful question, though.
Yeah. All right. Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
See what happens in the next 2 weeks.